If I were to speak with a young couple who's about to be married or a young individual who's desiring to be married, I think one of the main pieces of advice, the first things I would say, would be to become who you're wanting to attract,
That's good.
or attach yourself to, or who you want to, get with, basically. Um, I think it's important because you want you want a person with emotional stability. Become that. You want a person with financial stability. Become that. You want a person with spiritual stability. Oh yes, you want that. Become that. I think those are important key ingredients to the successful search for an individual. You know.
That's good. I like that. Well, if I was talking to a young couple about to be married, the one thing I would tell them, I remember hearing this quote that marriage is not just the union of two individuals, but it is the collision of two backgrounds. And I think it is so important that you get healed from any past trauma, past relationships, anything that went on in your childhood or
Yeah.
your dating life or anything like that. It is so important that you make it your priority to get healed as much as you possibly can,
Right.
because that collision of both of those backgrounds you're gonna have the way you think about marriage and relationships is going to completely be based on the type of home you grew up in.
Right.
If dad took care of all the finances, you're going to have that expectation as a woman, that,
Yeah.
oh, my husband's supposed to do this.
Right.
If there was certain roles, gender roles that took place, those are already going to be obstacles and challenges that you will have to navigate through. Not even saying it's going to be a problem, but it is
Right.
still something that you're going to have to face. So you don't need the added problem of trying to work through your past hurt or your past problems. You don't need any of
Yeah,
that. You know what I
would
mean?
definitely. That's definitely important. I love that statement. Marriage isn't only the union of two people. I do love that, and it's the collision of two backgrounds because we all deal with, as you said, past trauma or hurt, just overwhelming situations we've been through. That brings it to a place where transparency is so key for and vulnerability in any relationship. And I think a lot of in our time, we live in a time of a lot of the highlights of our life with social media. Hey, I'm doing this, the selfies, and I think a lot of people focus on the good, the best of me, showing the best of me, and not being vulnerable with the parts of their life that you know
Or being
authentically, yeah, who you
them.
are,
Yeah.
but being transparent with your past, whatever you've dealt with. And sometimes it's good to do that beforehand if you can have I think therapy is excellent
Yeah.
counseling, one-on-one, and for an individual to face the issues and address the issues of the past.
Right.
Because a lot of times our decisions and our behaviors and our choices and the words we speak are only influenced by the pain that a lot of us have carried and haven't addressed.
Yeah.
So I
true.
think it's so important that we do deal with that, as you were saying. I love the fact you brought that up.
Yeah, and well, the other thing too is a lot of times we have a snapshot of what we think a healthy relationship looks like.
Right.
And you mentioned social media, and in social media we do that. We look at other couples, we look at celebrity couples, we look at couples that are mainstream that we observe, and we immediately compare.
Right.
We begin
That's
to
so
compare
true.
our relationship
Yeah.
with, it could be somebody we even know. But the
Yeah.
truth is, you never know the ins and outs of what that relationship truly is.
Yeah.
Because, one thing I look at is longevity. Because a lot of people are very performative. They know how to get in front of the camera
Yeah.
and present
Yeah.
this idea of what that you believe their relationship is, and then especially celebrity couples, and it's like, oh my God, they seem like they're so in love, and then years later you hear they're divorcing and all the other stuff, and here you looked at them as a model
Right.
of what a marriage could and should be.
Right.
And what you have to do is do the work.
Right.
Every relationship takes work.
Yeah.
Every relationship does. And if I could tell every young couple, we have this, what I call the Cinderella, I don't know if it's a Cinderella syndrome or whatever, where it's like, you live happily ever after. That's bull. Like, you got to work at having the type of relationship that you
Yes.
want. It takes both partners doing their part
Yes.
and doing the work.
Yes. And I think bringing it back to where we were saying to a new couple, one of the things we've said before to somebody who's thinking about marriage or preparing for marriage, in our times with couples, because we do premarital counseling, we've always said this, and it's so important that people prepare for these things, because you get a job, you've used this example many times, and you go through training for the job, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes more, for a job that you're going to work on 9 to 5, for 40 hours a week, but no one thinks of preparing for being with a partner for life.
Right.
That you need training, you need prep time. It doesn't just happen. And naturally, we're communal beings that should enjoy being around each other, but because of our differences in backgrounds and differences in lifestyle and culture, we have to go sit back and prepare ourselves.
Yeah.
To
And that
deal
is
with,
one
yeah.
thing I always try to tell couples,
Yeah.
because it's true. I remember when I went to school to get my bachelor's degree and then my master's degree, it was like a lot of years.
Yeah.
It was 6 years of training and preparing to become the person that, I am today.
Exactly.
And yet we get married, like you said, and it's like no preparation time to coexist with another human being. And you gotta do the work.
You got to do the work. You
Yeah.
gotta do the work.
And the work doesn't end the day you say I do. And in many ways, that's the beginning of the work. That's the
Right.
beginning. And it will forever be work. And we don't like that word work, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
You're going to run into some obstacles. You're going to run into some situations. Things change. The dynamic of the family changes, right? In the beginning, maybe it's just the two of you, and then you start adding children into the mix. Then you start adding challenges into the mix.
Yeah.
And, and it will forever be adjusting, work, settling in your mind that I'm going to do the work.
Right.
I'm going to do the work to make this work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I often have I want to say a negative view of work. I think in our mind we think, grind and let's do this.
Yeah.
But when you add the word love, there's a cliche, there's a statement of, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day of your life. And I think when especially the times when we're in love, you'll do anything, doesn't matter. But sometimes we forget, and when that time happens, it's like, I'm in love with them, and we're forgetting about ourselves at the time. We forget about take care of you. Don't forget, all this sacrifice, and it's good. Nothing's wrong with that. But I think caring for your health is so important. Caring for your inner health, your mind, your mental health, so important before you go into this journey. Get yourself together, or else you'll be dealing with, you'll be having more concerns about the issues, whether it's health issues or these, intrusive thoughts, whatever it is you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Deal with those things and have a kind of a plan
Yeah.
in terms of dealing with a problem that you may have had, a habit, whatever it may be,
Right.
that causes discomfort or dis-ease in your life. You want to address those things.
True. Well, I remember I was so insecure, and I know you you knew that. I dealt with so much insecurity. And I remember one specific time, we were young couple, married, and you ran into an old friend, and you just start talking, and completely, you were so excited to see them that you didn't introduce me.
Right.
By the time we got, and I just stood there and smiled, but I was so upset with you. And instead of me saying, "Hey, honey, who is this?" I could have easily just done that. I took offense. And my mind said, "You were ashamed of me. You didn't like me. It's because I'm not pretty enough. I'm not this enough." Yeah. And as soon as you got in the car, I snapped, and I got so upset with you and went off on you. I know you probably remember this.
I do remember this, yeah.
Yeah, but
I was thinking, why didn't you just say something? I was like, just say something. I forgot, that's what I was
thinking. And it was such a simple mistake. But see, I carried my insecurity in such a way that every single thing that you did where I felt disregarded, it felt like you were doing it on purpose because I was fueling that insecurity I had within myself, right?
Right.
And so I think it is so important for us to remember that we've got to deal with all those internal issues that we got within ourselves, because when you carry them into a relationship, they begin to take center stage a lot of times. When conflict happens or something happens that your spouse does, you can get angry off of your own issue.
Right. Exactly.
So you take it to the next level when it didn't deserve that because you didn't get healed. And I was not healed. I'm healed now.
Right.
Now I would be like, it would be a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Because I've learned to love myself.
Exactly.
But in the beginning, I was looking for you to compensate for the areas where I was weak.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like that was your responsibility to make me feel whole.
Right. When in reality, it's our own individual responsibility.
It is.
To love and care for ourselves and be aware of our hurts and our areas and address them with love.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important that we, just really just in order to make a union, create this union of love, you got to start being complete. As we often said, it's not 50-50 in a marriage. It's what? 100.
Yeah.
So that's so key in terms of the journey that I would really want to help a person who's trying to start and get on that road is really becoming complete in yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, very important.